Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Monday, November 20th, 2023, and today we're going to be talking about the state of New Jersey and the 2024 Senate election that is coming up very, very soon. Now, the 2024 presidential election, of course, will be coinciding with this Senate race, as will all of the congressional races and roughly 30 other Senate seats. So why are we specifically focusing on the state of New Jersey? Well, it is because of incumbent Senator Bob Menendez, who's facing a number of ethics and corruption violations and scandals and issues that are doing a lot of damage to his political brand in the state of New Jersey. As of recently, his approval rating has taken quite a significant hit, as numerous federal investigations and nearly a decade's-long worth of allegations surrounding corruption and, unfair practices within his position as senator, including extended members of his family. Now, Bob Menendez, as the incumbent senator in the state of New Jersey, hasn't exactly come into this with a strong backing. In 2018, he won his election by just 11.2%, and that wasn't just by chance. Bob Menendez faced a number of allegations that were around his issue and ability to serve as a faithful and non-corrupt senator, right? I think that's honestly what people were looking for in 2018, and I don't think many people were pleased that Bob Menendez ended up back on the ballot on the Democratic Party side. On the Democratic side, we found here that Bob Menendez did have an opponent within the Democratic primary, one that didn't have much of a name for herself from the beginning. She was a candidate for Union County Clerk in 2010 and a self-described activist. Now, even with this, with a lack of funding and a lack of institutional support in the state of New Jersey, Bob Menendez, as the incumbent, saw that 37.72% of Democratic voters in the state of New Jersey turned away from him in the primary. As an incumbent senator, winning just 62% of your party's primary is quite interesting, to say the least. I think Bob Menendez is at a point where 2018 was the warning sign. These issues and these scandals started to emerge, but were really in full force this time around and are starting to be increasingly more interesting to see where Bob Menendez's political future might lie. Now, he started off in his race back a little bit earlier than that. So 2006, I believe, was his first election, or 2000. Maybe it's even earlier than that, and it was 2000 at the beginning of the 21st century. 2000 election was held before. Bob Menendez came in through a special, and then we found here that he won in 2006. Now, he won by a margin of roughly 9 points. Don't look into that too much. New Jersey at the time was, interestingly enough, competitive, and keep in mind Chris Christie went on to win the governorship 3 years later and then went in a landslide in 2013, yada, yada, yada. But 2012, we found that Bob Menendez won by a pretty strong margin, right? Very similar to President Obama's in the state. So he was matching Democratic Party turnout. He was matching Democratic Party performance, but then came 2018, which again was that warning sign election that I think put Bob Menendez on the radar for many Republicans. Now, it says that it was a toss-up, including the Cook Political Report, which declared the state to be a toss-up in the general election. Now, that obviously wasn't true. Bob Menendez ended up winning, and nearly everybody else got it correct. And the polling had indicated that Bob Menendez was going to win by roughly 11 points. But 11 points isn't all that impressive. In 2016, Hillary Clinton won the state by a margin of 12.8%, and even that was seen as an underperformance. Most recently, in the 2020 presidential, we see that Joe Biden won the state by over 15 percentage points. And they just recently re-elected a Democratic governor in 2021. And now in 2023, there were numerous state legislative races as well, in which the Democratic Party had flipped over 5 seats in the New Jersey state legislature. So Democrats have been doing quite well here. But Bob Menendez in specific has not. And now in the 2024 Senate race, there's a very interesting primary going on between Andy Kim, the representative from New Jersey's 3rd Congressional District, and Tammy Murphy, the wife of the incumbent governor of the state of New Jersey. Now, looking at Bob Menendez, he actually hasn't said that he's not going to run for re-election or will not resign, and is actively considering a bid for re-election. He seems to be holding out strong here, saying that, I am innocent. This is not something that I've done, that my wife has done, that family members of mine have done. I have not used my political power for any type of corrupt purposes. And even though he's making all these claims, the public is turning on him. But yet he still is considering this bid for re-election, which I don't think will end up happening. I do think he will make an agreement to go ahead and either resign from his position and not run for re-election, or not run for re-election and just stay back on the back burner here. But I do think right now, because he hasn't completely come out against it, is that he's really trying to hold on to this idea that he's innocent, right? not running for re-election in a way is admitting defeat, a way of admitting guilt in this circumstance. Because why wouldn't you run for re-election as someone who has won numerous terms in the state of New Jersey, 2006, 2012, 2018, and potentially 2024? But with such high-profile names running for Senate in the state of New Jersey, it becomes very difficult for Bob Menendez to break out. We can see that in polling data amongst the state itself. As an incumbent, he's polling most recently at just 5%. In a three-way race between Andy Kim, Tammy Murphy, and Bob Menendez gets third place at 5% of the vote, compared to 62%, which again, warning sign election, 62% in 2018. But Andy Kim comes out ahead. We're done really talking about Bob Menendez. We do need to recognize that he caused this and that the issue of corruption will continue to be an emerging theme and factor in these elections. But what we do see here is that Andy Kim has 40% of the Democratic primary vote. Tammy Murphy is at 21%. Now, Tammy Murphy has received numerous endorsements. I think what I've taken away from this is that the establishment has very, very much centered around Tammy Murphy. Though she has announced her bid quite recently, someone who had announced her bid after Andy Kim has not been actively, or at least seemingly actively, gearing up for this Senate bid. She seems to have gotten everyone, and I mean everyone, to fall in line. And the interesting thing about Tammy Murphy that I think will become an issue of this campaign is that there is a recent scandal that just emerged where Tammy Murphy now, I think through the Department of Health in the state of New Jersey, is now being brandished up across the airwaves. Over six figures being spent towards this campaign of promoting Tammy Murphy through a government-funded resource. So that will certainly be a factor, I think, in this campaign. Another factor, I think, that will be brought back up that I do not think people are talking about now is the fact that she was formerly identified as a Republican. On the record, Tsunami had said that she had voted for Republicans up until 2014. So you have that as a liability that in the era of Romney and McCain, that Tammy Murphy wasn't on the Democratic Party side, whereas Andy Kim practically always has been, right? I think that's really going to be a huge difference between the two, too, that Andy Kim has been serving as a Democratic politician versus Tammy Murphy, who hasn't, right, has been a Republican in years past and has that as a liability. But besides that point, though Andy Kim is leading in the primary, she has gotten everyone to fall in line. I mean, just take a look at the difference in endorsements that we have here, right? You have Andy Kim, who has the endorsement from the New Jersey Senate Majority Whip. Okay, that's cool. One state assembly member. A few organizations, and Citizens United, Vote Vets, Let America Vote, and the Asian American Action Fund. Are those major names in the state of New Jersey? Probably not, right? Organizations, just one Democratic organization. The Daily KOS, right? Those are the only endorsements Andy Kim has, and you scroll down to Tammy Murphy, and who does she have? Josh Gottheimer, U.S. Representative from New Jersey's 5th District. Donald Norcross, U.S. Representative from New Jersey's 1st District. Frank Pallone, U.S. Representative from New Jersey's 6th District. Bill Passerell, U.S. Representative from New Jersey's 9th District. Donald Payne Jr., U.S. Representative from New Jersey's 10th District. Mikey Sherrill, U.S. Representative from New Jersey's 11th District. All of these representatives, incumbents, right? The 5th, the 1st, the 6th, the 9th, the 10th, the 11th, and the other representative is Andy Kim. And so that's where I think you really start to see that in Congress even, though they are his colleagues, though they have known him very, very well, they are endorsing the governor's wife. And I don't want to refer to her that way as if she's not her own person, but the way that this is being perceived is that Phil Murphy is the reason why Tammy Murphy is able to do quite well. And I do think when you look at this announcement, when you look at what she's trying to champion and go into, her endorsement or her endorsements in many of the work cited is her work as First Lady, is her time in office, since 2017. That is what has been a defining characteristic and part of her campaign personally, and I do think that matters. And I do think you can't ignore the influence that people have, right? When Hillary Clinton ran for Senate in 2000, she obviously had a very, very strong political presence, but a lot of it had to do with President Bill Clinton. A lot of the endorsements that rolled in and the reason for electability and the reason that she could go from a state like Arkansas and go to New York and run for office there was because of President Bill Clinton. Now, obviously, she made a name for herself right after, and I think Tammy Murphy very well could, should she become a U.S. Senator, maybe even prop herself up for some type of higher office or candidacy for higher office, even higher than where the governor is right now. But I do think there is a major factor at play, which is the reason why she gets these endorsements and why Andy Kim, quite frankly, does not. And maybe some of them are actually upset that Andy Kim, as a representative, is trying to primary a sitting incumbent, whereas Tammy Murphy, who's not an elected official, is the first lady, probably has, in their eyes, more of a reason to, and maybe some of it has to do with internal jealousy. The idea that me, as Josh Gottheimer, the representative from the 5th District, can't run, but Andy Kim can because he's a representative from the 3rd District, right? I think those things also might be factors that play into the reason, spitefulness is a very, very big thing in politics. I'm not also insinuating that that might be the reason for it, but I do think there is a possibility, right? I think that could be one of the reasons. And you look through, too, multiple state senators, multiple state assemblymen, right? You look at the municipal officials, local officials, mayor of Jersey City, Hudson County executive elect, some people who had just got into office already announced that they're supporting Tammy Murphy. Numerous party officials, Democratic Party chair, Democratic Party chair, Democratic Party chair, Democratic Party chair, right? Continues. All around the state, Tammy Murphy seems to have it strong. But the polls don't suggest that she's doing as well as the endorsements might, right? Public Policy Polling did a recent poll just a week ago that shows Andy Kim with roughly 40% of the vote, and he has a lot of money. He's raised more than Tammy Murphy has, probably because she hasn't reported and raised that much yet. But I do think, right, Andy Kim has already started organizing around this election. But it'll be very interesting to see how this breaks down, because on one end, Andy Kim also comes from a district that I think provides him a level of recognition, a level that might make voters want to choose him for the U.S. Senate. Andy Kim, the 3rd District here, won by 11.8% in 2022. In 2020, he won by 7.8. In 2018, he won by 1.3, and that's because in 2016, the incumbent Republican there won by 20.4%. Now, between 2016 and 2018, the Republican decided to run again. That's when Andy Kim came in. He took a Republican plus 20 district and made it blue. In 2014, it was 9.6. In 2012, it was 8.9. But 2016 was very, very strong. It was Trump country, even. And you found here that Representative McCarthy was able to do well. But then the Democrats turned back the clock, right? They went to where they were back under President Obama in the state, even better than that, right? They went from 7 to 5 to 11 to 1, and even that one district was competitive. Fast forward to 2020, Republicans win back an additional seat. Fast forward to 2022, they win back another one, but it's still 9-3, and Andy Kim is a resilient figure in this state in terms of how he's perceived, in terms of how he has navigated the competitive elections, and what he can bring to the United States Senate. Now, obviously, New Jersey isn't really a competitive state. Again, President Biden won it by roughly 16 points, but I do think it adds to his electability factor, and I do think some voters will be happy that a swing district Democrat will be able to run for Senate and do quite well. I also think that there is a good chunk of the electorate that, unfortunately, because of Bob Menendez's scandals, will consider many of those factors and news articles that are now coming into play around Tammy Murphy and her association with her husband, right? I think Bob Menendez's reason for departure, whether by force or by his own volition, will be because of corruption and association with using his own political power for his own benefit, for his wife's benefit. And I think what Andy Kim, maybe directly or indirectly or through surrogates or not, what will be raised against Tammy Murphy is that she, in a way, is being propositioned up by her husband, being propositioned up through the use of political power, one elected official benefiting an unelected official so they might thrive through the issue of politics. I mean, that is what I think you are going to see become a main issue in the campaign. And though it may not have mattered in another Senate race, though I think it still would have, but certainly not to the same extent, the perfect storm here for an Andy Kim victory seems to be there. The question is, does he capitalize on it correctly? Does he, turn it into a race that he wins? Because right now, it is his race to lose. Although Tammy Murphy has a very recognizable last name, so does he. When you take a look at the support that they have received on the Tammy Murphy side, you would assume immediately that this means that Murphy is done in for, but in reality, or that Kim is done in for, but in reality, that is not the case. I think Andy Kim's significant lead for quite some time now tells us that voters wanted him from the beginning. When he first launched his campaign, when the news continued to break, Menendez dropping in approval, Menendez dropping in approval, Menendez scandal after scandal after scandal, refusing to resign, considering a bid for re-election, so many different factors at play that I think we look at that and say, Andy Kim was very quick to jump onto that. He very much wants the Senate seat, and I think the voters like that, and I think the voters see that. Although Tammy Murphy has a huge name for herself and has a lot of support right now, Andy Murphy has the support of the people. Very clearly and very evidently through the polling, things can change. Support can change. It does and has. But at the same time, I do believe that as of right now, Andy Kim is in a very good position for U.S. Senate. Tammy Murphy also in a well-positioned spot, but not too well. I think Andy Kim right now is the favorite. This is his race to lose, but it'll be a very fascinating election to watch, to see what things are brought up, how scandals are talked about, how Bob Menendez makes an impact on the race, and how money and politics altogether intertwines into a fascinating Democratic primary that holds no consequences for overall Democratic Party leadership or support or nationwide composition, but proves to be a very, very interesting case study about the influence of first ladies and political dynasties and political power concentrated within states like New Jersey, where the general election doesn't matter, but the primary is everything. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch, and then a playlist for my 2024 Senate election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all later today.